Hi, I'm Vanessa. Welcome back to the podcast. My guest this week is Ashley Golladay, and Ashley is a consultant who works with real estate teams and brokerages to solve people, system, and technology problems. She comes in, she analyzes what's working and what isn't, and then helps them implement change. And she has such an interesting perspective on what it takes to grow and manage and lead a successful real estate team or brokerage. So when planning this interview with Ashley, I realized that I wanted to divide this into two parts. So the first part of this interview is really for career seekers, for real estate professionals who are looking at making a shift from being an employee to a consultant and thinking about how they could take their skills and interests and special talents and put them to use in a different way. So the first part of this is really about finding your career path, potentially as a consultant, or finding the role that's right for you. And then we switch and we really speak to the real estate team leader and broker owner about some of the technology systems that Ashley is excited about right now that make managing and leading a brokerage easier. And we talk about some of those people and systems issues that she identifies as common things that she's helping people solve. So I'm going to put the timestamps in the description. And if you're not interested in the career part, just skip down to the agent part. And I'm sure you'll really enjoy that as well. At the very end of the interview, I very briefly touch on the fact that I am a leadership coach and I help real estate agents learn how to step into this leadership and management role as their team grows. And I reference my website, lid.consulting. So if you're looking for a leadership coach, go to lid.consulting and see if we might be a good fit to work together. And of course, if you're a job seeker listening to this, make sure that you go to proreastaffing.com to check out our open jobs. Hopefully we can help you find your next role in real estate. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right. Hey, Ashley, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I always like to start with people's origin story, and you and I met many moons ago. So can you talk about how you found your way into the real estate industry?
Yeah. So we met in 2010 when I kind of got out of being an actual employee in a real estate brokerage and turned into a consultant full time. But I started, it really started when I was a kid. My mom was a licensed agent when I was 8 years old. And so I would go on showings with her and the book and the maps goes like old school way. And then when I was 20 in 2004, I was looking for my first real adult job. And my mom had a friend who was opening a new Keller Williams brokerage at the time near me. And they were like, "Hey, you're good at math. You should go take this accounting test." And so I took the test and I passed. And so that's how I got officially sucked in my professional life to the real estate world. So I did that for a few years at a few different locations. And I realized I was really bad at being an employee. I am not built for that. No matter how many times I'm like, "Oh, that's a good idea. I should just go get the solid paycheck and the consistency and all the things." It does not work for me. And so in 2010, I started consulting all over the country, and I would come in and fix the things and be the interim so that it gave the brokerage time to find the right person. And then I would help train and, get that person off to success. So yeah. And then I got my license eventually, and now I'm at EXP, and I still do a lot of consulting for teams and brokerages.
Perfect. So just to clarify for people who don't know about the role that you're referring to. So at MCA with Keller Williams, especially back in the day, was this office manager accounting role that supported the team leader in running the office. So onboarding agents, all things financial, basically related to
Yeah.
running the office.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's how it kind of evolved as I started consulting in all these other offices. I started to see this perspective outside of the MCA role. And so I would get pulled into and be like, "Hey, what did you do for technology for onboarding? Or what kind of vendor program have you seen before?" And then I would help them relaunch their vendor program. The most successful ones I did were over $100,000 in other income for that brokerage a year, And so it eventually turned into this kind of full scope business consult of what's working and what's not in the brokerage, because there's so many moving parts, and it just depended on the size too. Is this a brand new office? Is this an established, hundreds of agents, or are they relaunching? Wherever they were in the stage would change what the solution was. And so it would just turn into so much more than just that MCA role.
Right.
I'm still a little triggered with the title.
I understand. So because we have two audiences on this podcast, so there are definitely going to be people who are exploring careers in real estate and are looking for what their next career move is, and they don't want to be a sales agent. So we have those
Mhm.
people. And then we also have agents and broker owners who are looking for tips, tricks, ideas on what they need to do to grow their business. So I want to start by answering the burning questions that I'm sure the career seekers are wondering. And so I want to talk about your choice to be a consultant versus an employee. Now, you mentioned you just weren't cut out to be an employee. And I want to explore that just a little bit more.
Yeah. So for me, it came down to a lot of times flexibility. I was not good at the 9 to 5 mold. I also am an only child. And so, and I came out of the womb an adult. And so I don't like being left out of things. And so I always felt like just because my title dictated something didn't mean that I wasn't capable of more. And so I just kept like, I felt like I kept getting shoved into these boxes that I didn't fit in. I'm capable of so much more than just the financial piece or just the operations and admin, that I just was like, you know what? I'd rather hustle for myself and be in control of my time 100%. And I get to choose who I work with. And if and I don't feel that this is a fit, then I get to walk away, and I'm not, permanently affecting my family or whatever. Now, the hard part is consulting is just like being a salesperson. You have to go find the clients. You have to market yourself. You have to, have that. So there are months where, I'd make $1,000, and then there's months where I'd make $20,000, and so you have to treat it like a salary, and be consistent about paying yourself so that you don't feel those hits as hard. But I learned so much more when I wasn't dictated by a title or a schedule or whatever. And so I just learned so much about myself in that. Like when I graduated college, I had all these friends that became elementary school teachers. And I thought, oh, that's terrifying. You're going to be responsible for teaching small children. Like you're a child still, like I'm concerned for them. And then somewhere along the way, I realized I'm an adult teacher, right? When I became a consultant, I started teaching other people how to do the role and how to do it really well. And I loved that so much, instead of being the one responsible for the day to day. And that for me personally was the aha moment of, I can do things, sure, that I'm capable of a lot of things, but I wasn't enjoying doing it as much as I enjoyed teaching other people how to do it really well and become the problem solver of all of the things, instead of just that one thing that my title dictated. So,
Right.
yeah.
So it sounds like freedom and flexibility is really important to
Mhm.
you. Being able to cultivate your expert level skills and then share that knowledge and experience with other people is important to you. And you're willing to hustle to find the clients so that you can stay in your zone of genius. And you recognize when you are showing up as talent and what that environment needs to be for you, and when you're not.
Yeah.
And you've gotten really clear about that.
hmm And that's the other cool part is, for me, my consulting journey, I never had to be a salesperson. So I never got my license for so many years because I didn't want to be a salesperson. My mom was a salesperson. And you kind of like either are your parent identically or you're the exact opposite. I wanted to be the exact opposite. And so I thought, and I told myself, I'm not a salesperson, I'm not a salesperson. But really, I never had to sell myself, because what I did for these offices and for these staff people, that spoke for itself. And so I lived on word of mouth referrals for 12 years, helping these people. It just spread like wildfire because I was in this niche place where no one else could do what I could do. And so that talent was priceless for the most part. And so I'm so grateful and thankful for that, because if I hadn't taken that chance, or had that, realization of I'm really good at teaching people, or I really like fixing the things and then moving on. I always made the joke once I got into consulting, everywhere I would go, especially even where we met, they would be like, please move here. We'll pay you anything. Like, just be our person forever. And I realized, I'm like, I've been with my husband for 16 years. Like, I'm so monogamous in my personal life, but in business, I was like, I will not marry a business anymore. Like, I only date them and then I move on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, you've identified what your value proposition is and where your strengths and weaknesses are and what you really want to do. And you've really leaned into that. And
Mhm.
because you've stayed true to that and you haven't let somebody dangle a big dollar figure in front of you and derail you from what you know is true for yourself, you've been able to cultivate this career around what you like to do and what you're good at, which
Yeah.
is very cool. As we all should do. I'm such a big proponent of designing the life you want to lead and then pursuing it with everything you've got. Like,
Right.
there are going to be good times, there are going to be hard times, there are going to be
Mhm.
challenges. But if you're very clear about what your vision is for the life you want to lead, then it becomes a lot easier to make decisions when
Yeah.
opportunities or challenges come up, and they will, right?
Mhm. Well, and that's the thing. If you don't design it, it will design itself. And then the next thing you know, you look up and you're like, how did I get here?
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. Okay, so this is going to be an awkward transition, but I want to talk to agents. So, I mean, some of that definitely would resonate with agents. But let's talk about, you've learned so much, and you've had such a wonderful bird's eye view and like a deep dive view, really, of so many different businesses. So I'm curious, are there any trends that you see, any common elephant in the room that brokerages or teams aren't addressing, that you come in and you're like, you guys, maybe it's a person or a system or a pattern of behavior or something that's a common like elephant in the room?
So I think it's very similar to the staff, right? Or the employee piece of so many brokerages and teams are doing the same thing they've always done and expecting a different result. And so what worked for a brokerage that had 10 agents versus 100 agents is not the same system. It's not the same technology. It's not the same people a lot of times. So being open to reevaluating what it is that you're currently doing and the solutions that you have in the business and the foundation. Because if you want to grow, you have to build the foundation first. This was always the thing that made zero sense to me. For a brokerage, so many people believe that the brokerage is in the transactional business, buying and selling, because it's the broker that's on the contract and that's responsible. And then the agent goes out and execute it. But really, brokerages are in the customer service business. And I don't think that most of them really understand that, because a lot of brokerages are run by agents who are really successful at being an agent. And then they happen to have enough capital to buy a franchise or open their own indie or whatever that looks like. But they're not necessarily a business guru. They don't come from corporate America. They don't have the foundation. And the foundation for a brokerage to really be successful is more about, how do I support the agents and the customer service side, not the transactional unit count and commission checks and all of that. Like, yes, it's a thing, but I've got to be able to support my people and the agents that are coming and going and the entire time that they're with you, not just in that onboarding period. So two systems I'm huge fans of right now. One is for teams, really, and I can do custom things for brokerages too. But everybody's talking about Chat GPT and AI and all of these things. For me, the real estate industry is just barely getting to the point of using data, right? And really becoming data driven. And so to me, missing out on analytics and being able to measure when those team members aren't performing. So Solioaks is a company that competes with CTE and CSU or some of the other solutions of how teams are measuring the production level and the GCI and team members being able to rank and just giving a lot of clarity. And so Solioaks is a custom product that will connect to the agent's dot loop or SkySlope or whatever their transactional system is, and it will API and import a lot of that data to where no one has to manually keep up with it and data entry all day, every day. So that's a huge thing that I recommend for teams and even brokerages of what are you doing to measure? So you'll hear me say this all the time. I probably have 15 clips of me saying this, but I was at a conference a few years ago, Tony Robbins spoke at, and he said, you can't manage if you don't measure. And I think that the measurement is missing for a lot of teams and a lot of brokerages, because agents are salespeople, they're relationship people. They're not numbers driven, they're not data driven, they're not technology driven. And so if they have an admin that has figured out the measurement, cool, then they might know some things. But the other thing I love about the Soliox product is it's not just another spreadsheet. So spreadsheets might as well be a foreign language. Like I might as well be speaking fluent Italian when I show someone a formula or some cool thing on a spreadsheet. And most agents just glaze and just shut down when you show them a spreadsheet and data and numbers. And so the Soliox platform uses such powerful visuals. And so agents understand graphs and pie charts and pretty colors. And so I'm a lot more likely to get them to see something that's happening in their business of, oh, the goal versus the actual, or the ROI on your lead gen. Like you might think Zillow is everything, but it's really not. It's not driving your closings, and your per payment or per transaction payment or cost is not what you think it is. And so that's my biggest one right now, is just the data and putting it in a way that's consumable and functional for teams. Because again, a spreadsheet, people, even if it's pretty and got colors, it's still a spreadsheet, and people are overwhelmed and intimidated by it. And then with Sisu, it's kind of just, it is what it is. It has to work for every single industry that they're in, not just real estate. So there's not a lot of flexibility and customization. And so that's a lot of the feedback that I get from agents or teams that are using Sisu, is it just doesn't give me what I really want to know. And Soliox was built by a developer whose wife is a team leader and has a team of 20-something people. So he knew, and he had his wife to, go, these are all the things that matter to me. And then it's just built on, more and more input by other teams. And so I'm a huge fan of that. And then the other thing for brokerages, really, a product called Macromotus. And I don't know that we really went into detail about this, but I am a huge fan of turning data into processes, right? Working smarter, not harder. And this system will separate the data in a document and turn it into a database. So when an agent joins a brokerage, they have to fill out all this paperwork. And even for brokerages that have turned it into fillable PDFs, this is different, because that's still just a flat image that someone on the operations side or admin has to go read through or scroll through 20 pages to find the one piece of information that matters to them so that they can go do their tasks. This is able to extract that data from the document and go in and customize, oh, I'm the accounting person, so I only need the credit card information and the social security and the banking information. But yet when the front desk person logs in, or the agent services or the productivity coach, they only see the data that matters and pertains to them. So you actually have much more control from a security standpoint. And then it's almost like having another staff member, because you build in the logic. One of the things that was so difficult when I was training and running brokerages was, it's kind of like the game of telephone. I come in, I teach someone, then we grow. And so the position expands into two. I've got to train somebody else, or so-and-so leaves, I've got to train somebody else. And so whatever the current iteration is of that job description or task or whatever, it's not being executed the way that it was really intended, because each, iteration, the data or it gets lost in translation. And so this system is able to hold that logic and go, when an agent has a license that's expiring, it will proactively send a text message 3 months prior to that expiration date and go, hey, do you plan on renewing your license? And if the agent replies back and says no, well, now the team leader gets a notification, or the office manager gets a notification 90 days ahead of that agent's license expiring. So now it's working proactively for me, instead of 95% of brokerages that I've ever worked in are always behind the 8 ball. They don't know a license is expired until the state's like, hey, we have a problem and a complaint. They've written a contract with an expired license. And so now and this person, right? This system is never late, never sick, never interrupted, can't forget. That action will always happen in a timely manner. So just that one thing of being able to proactively manage license expirations in a system that works for you instead of a staff member that has to manage a spreadsheet, or God forbid, I guarantee you they're still using binders where they physically have each license in a different tab of what month someone's manually picking up the phone. But again, that person can be on vacation and that task doesn't happen, right? So I love the Macromoda system because it will automate. It can API to web-based systems. So even just the rosters, I know most brokerages are still using spreadsheets to create a roster for all their agent information. And you have to have someone go in and insert a row when a new agent joins, delete the row when they leave, update the phone number, whatever. All of that is completely automated through this system because an agent signs up, they onboard, they typed in their phone number, their email, their name, it automatically gets pulled in the roster now. And when we go in and we tell the system, hey, this person's left, it automatically gets roster. So we literally were able to, for an office in New York, they had an agent services person who would spend about 4 hours for each agent that was signing up each month to go in and manually add them to this system, add them to this system. And you're doing double, triple, quadruple data entry over and over. It's the same information going to all these places. And so within about 60 days, we automated every single task this person was doing because they were all websites. She was going to BombBomb. She was going to, the CRM. She was going to all these places that are all web-based now. And we can API that data that the agent already typed. And now I'm not paying my staff person to type in the same and over again. And so now it went from 4 hours per agent to onboard and do all the setup thing for their technology to 5 minutes of this one manual thing that we couldn't automate. Like I create a voicemail box in the phone system and I can't into the copier if you're still physically in an office. Like those things are always going to be there, but anything web driven that we can connect to, we're just working smarter, not harder, and being able to make it a system to leverage and duplicate. And now those staff people, they're still needed, right? About job security, like, oh, my job doesn't exist. Now they get to go back to more customer service driven, interaction and time of, hey, let's communicate and let's do more social events, or, hey, you want to teach a class or whatever that looks like, but they're not stuck in this data entry, world anymore. So those are my two favorite things right now for teams and for brokerages.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that. And so I want to wrap up by talking about this customer service piece a little bit more. So what are some of the best practices you're seeing for brokerages that are really owning their role as customer service providers to their agents?
Yeah. So to me, that looks like the relationship, right? So anything that you can create from a retention system. So one of the things, that's something that Macromodas can do as well, is go in and automatically divide up. Let's say there's 100 agents in the office. Typically, there's probably only 4 staff members. To me, it's kind of like teaching. You can go to a college where you're in a room of 500 students in the classroom, or you can go to a much smaller and you get more one-on-one of there's 20 people in the classroom. So there's only so much support the staff can provide to that many agents. And so the system will go in and say, okay, here's the 10 people that you're going to contact this week. And there's a place for them to go and put notes. They can rate the conversation of like, this agent was so pissed because so-and-so didn't show up for the open house that they had done, or nobody told them their package there, or whatever their complaint of the week is. And so there's a rating system that say, how likely do you think it is that agent is going to leave in the next 3 to 6 months, right? That alone can save us from a revolving backdoor kind of thing. But in general, just putting your arms around the agent. So things I was talking about to somebody the other day was, there can be a system that will automatically send a happy birthday text or an email to your agents. If you're doing that, it's just one touch that you can do and use a system, follow up boss, anything like that, to where you automatically touch that agent and make them feel seen. But these are salespeople. So that one email that they read it, cool, that's great. But imagine if you were to go and post on their Facebook profile, and you posted something that said, "Hey, happy birthday," or "Happy anniversary," even. "Thanks for being here for 5 years." Now all of their peers are seeing that post, as opposed to the email that they got or the text that they got. Cool, they feel good, but they just care what everybody else sees, because this society that we live in, right? That's what social media has created, is comparison, comparison, comparison. So if you can, like, there are systems that will automatically post to Facebook for you. I've seen a lot of success with brokerages or even teams, custom videos and sliding into DMs and sending them. But even if you just went and posted a custom video that said, "Hey, I just wanted to give you a shout out on your birthday," and their broker does that for them, and now all of their other agents see that their broker sent them a custom video on their birthday or their anniversary. That is what these agents want. That is truly what the crux of running and operating a real estate brokerage is that they want to be seen. They want to feel acknowledged. And just like, an employee wants to feel appreciated, the agents want to be seen. They're competitive, they're salespeople, and they want everyone else to know that they matter and that they're a big deal. And so anything like that, where you just make this one little tweak of going one step further and thinking about the psychology of that along with it, I think produces far better results for customer retention and for these brokerages.
So good. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I'd love to know, what are some of the challenges that they should contact you to help them solve?
Yeah, so it's the the epitome of third parties, validation. I get to be Switzerland. I come to a brokerage, I come into a team, I can see it for where it really is and what the issues really are, whether it's a people problem, a system problem, technology, whatever it is from an operation standpoint. It could be a financial issue. I'm not caught up in the emotions of day-to-day interactions with this group, right? And so I get to see the truth of where the business is, and then give the evaluation of, here's where I see the solutions or what problems need to be fixed. I'm able to come in very quickly, get into rapport with the staff, get into rapport with the agents or whoever, and go, here's why you're not getting to the next level. Here's the roadblocks, and then here's the map to getting there, and make the recommendations, and then getting the buy-in from everybody. Because it doesn't matter if you have the best plan in the world, if you can't communicate it to your people and get the buy-in from the people who are going to have to execute it, the boots on the ground, you're dead in the water. And that's what I love about why I'm not a coach. I think that's another distinction I like to make, is I'm not a business coach. I'm not a real estate coach. I am a business consultant. For me, consulting is, I'm boots on the ground. I'm building that house with you, and we're pivoting and changing, and we're doing it. I'm rolling up my sleeves and getting dirty with you. And so being able to do that, even for a short amount of time, it sets the world on fire for everybody, and they get the clarity, and they get to move forward and through what they've been stuck in.
So as a consultant, you come in, here's the plan, and you might put the new technology in place, or say, this is the new person, and you might train them. But the leader is responsible for guiding the culture and ensuring that the culture shifts with these changes. And, so I'm almost finished with my MSLOD. So my expertise is in managing change and coaching people through change. And so this is where you and I can work so well together, because I don't want to be boots on the ground and I don't know about the systems, but I can work. What my expertise is working with leaders to help them implement and lead change in their organization, and make sure that these shifts are really anchored in the culture within the company, so that the change sticks, that we actually do move. Because the reality is, when we talk about change management, 70% of organizational change efforts fail. 70%. Because there is an actual process that you have to go through. It's not enough to say, here's the new system, now you're going to put the data in here. That's not going to work.
If you're not willing to have the tough conversation, the fierce conversation with the owner or the leader, right, there's no point. And so that's another thing about being Switzerland, is I get to go to the owner and go, you're the problem. you've got to stop doing XYZ, because what you're not seeing is that it's creating this in your culture, and you're going to have a massive turnover rate forever until you stop this behavior. And then it's coming from me in a very like non-emotional, this is just a business, this is something I've seen, and I've seen it multiple times. And so you've got to work on yourself. Whereas when an employee comes to that owner and says, I have this issue, you did this, you said this, it's so hard to hear it from the employee. And so again, I just go back to that third party. It's the most amazing tool, because it's like, it's just the validation of this is what I see, and whether you like it or not. And that's, I think, really where the freedom of being able to leave comes from. It's like I get to go and go, hey, you got to fix this. Okay, bye. And I don't have to do the long term of whether they do that or not. But I know that I did my best of trying to convey where their change management and culture and leadership skills are lacking. And I think this is a huge issue in the real estate world, again, because you have a lot of salespeople who are now managers, who are now business owners, and they have no business running a business because they don't know how to manage the staff. They don't know how to lead. They may not have all of that skill. And so a lot of times that's part of that consulting is, hey, you're part of the problem. And I have the freedom to be able to say that without it being an attack or personal or whatever, because I don't work with them every day. And so I get to leave and say the things that nobody else can say or is terrified of saying. So,
and and the good news is you can learn those skills.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
100%. Just because you're not an effective leader right now, or you lack the communication skills, or you don't have your footing as or confidence as a manager, doesn't mean that you can't build those skills. You started not knowing a single script or dialogue or how to write a contract, and look at you.
Right.
You
Exactly.
can learn this. There's a will. You have to want it. You have to be. I think
Yeah.
the big thing that we always talk about, what I talk about as a coach, is when you're a sales agent, it is all about you. And the moment you hire somebody, it is no longer about you. It
Yep.
is about you supporting the people that that show up every day to support you and help you reach your goals. And if you're not willing to make that shift and not make it about you anymore, but make it about the people who are in your care, as Simon Sinek would say, you're going to have a hard time. So we can work on that. Like, you can shift, you can learn, you can put systems in place. If you're not good about giving people appreciation and acknowledgement, like, we can systematize that if we need to, right? Like, we can work on it, but you have to be willing to make the shift, and you have to do the work.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's almost like becoming a parent, right? I'm not a parent, but I raised myself. So I kind of have this pseudo identity that I am one, but it very much is that I am no longer the only person in my world that I have to worry about and support and care about. And I'm no longer the priority. That, I think, is the also crucial thing, is your people have to be your priority. And so if you're still coming at this is mine and it's about me and my ego, you're always going to be struggling because you're not making that everyone else the priority. And I think that's truly, where I see the differences of successful teams and successful brokerages versus the ones that are still spinning their wheels and haven't, made any substantive changes or growth in their businesses in the last 5, 10, 20 years. They're still exactly where they've always been, is because they can't remove the ego. They can't get outside of themselves and go, this is not about me. This is about them. This is about, something bigger than myself. And I want that for everyone instead of just wanting it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, KW talks about building a world that's big enough for your people as they grow. And I love that idea of, like, you are now responsible for creating this bigger world. You get this opportunity, really, to create this bigger world, because these people want to show up every day to support you in reaching your goals. Like, what an honor and a gift that these people, they could pick any job, they could work anywhere. They've chosen to show up for you. How are you showing up for them?
Exactly.
That makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a great place for us to stop. Ashley, thank you so much. And I'll include your information below. If you're looking for a consultant, if you're looking for support in growing your real estate team or brokerage, definitely talk to Ashley. And if you are looking for leadership coaching and support, Go to lid.consulting and you can hear all about our legacy program and one-on-one executive coaching that I offer. All right. Thanks, Ashley. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.